Hey friends, welcome back to my channel for another video. And I can genuinely say that I have never procrastinated starting to make a video as much as I have been procrastinating this one. So today I wanted to come into the library and update my Goodreads a little bit. So if you've been here since the start of my channel, my very first video was a book haul where I talked about the amount of books that I had on my physical TBR and my goal for the year to really cut that number down. And unfortunately, I think I have probably added more books to the TBR than I have read, even though I've read almost 100 books for the year already. I definitely think I have added books to the TBR. So when I think about that, my TBR started off at about 200 books, and the fact that I could have read half of them by now, and I probably haven't even made a dent in my physical TBR, definitely kills me a little bit. So today I thought we would go through Goodreads and start by adding in the other books that I have on my shelves that I've accumulated that are not already on my physical TBR on Goodreads so that I can get an updated count and hopefully be able to use that information for some videos in the future. I'm thinking I might try to put my TBR on a random wheel and let that generate the books that I'm gonna read. So let me know if that's something that you would be interested in for future reading vlogs. But I definitely just want to check in and see where the amount of unread books I have is at this moment. And in addition to that, I also really want to go back through Goodreads for the books that I've read this year because I hit a slump point where I just wasn't rating anything that I was reading, and I really would like to have a better snapshot of how my reading has been throughout the year. So I really want to go back through those and add ratings in, but I am gonna say I want to start with updating all of my TBR books because I don't know just how long that process is gonna take. So if it feels like the video is going to be too long, I might put updating my reading ratings in a part 2, just depending on where we're at once we've gone through all of the TBR stuff. So I've got my iPad. I'm going to pull Goodreads up on here, and I think we're actually going to start with the TBR cart because that's a little bit smaller and manageable, and then we will go through my TBR shelf. In addition to that, I do have a box of books that I've recently pulled out to unhaul, so I want to review my physical TBR to make sure those are not still on there because I am unhauling those books. So with that being said, we might as well go ahead and jump into it because I have a funny feeling that this is probably going to take a long time. All right, so I am all logged in on Goodreads, which the screen is so bright. Much better. I'm all logged in on Goodreads, and I'm going to try to screen record a little bit so you can see some of the process. All right, so I'm going to navigate over to my books and my physical TBR. So right now, based on what I've read so far this year that I have updated from my physical TBR, it looks like I have about 191 books still on my physical TBR, which I would really like for that to not be true, but I believe it might be true. So I'm not going to go through those just yet. I'm going to go ahead and go through what I have here, and I'm just going to do this by searching for the books on Goodreads and then adding them if they're not already on my physical TBR, and then I will go through the books that I'm unhauling afterwards and just make sure that those get removed. So we'll start over here, and I know this isn't on there. This is Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin because I just picked that book up. I need to be so much better about updating this as soon as I get new books when I'm doing my book hauls. So I'm gonna just lock in and check that all of these are on here, and I will touch base with you after I make some progress. So far, we're not doing too bad just from the front of the cart. The physical TBR is now up to $195 for our count. So I'm going to give this a little spin around because there are a few books on the back, and we'll continue from there. Okay, there's not that much back here, but some of these are definitely much newer additions to the TBR, so I think there's a good chance that we might pick up a few back here. So I'm going to start down here with On the Road. How funny is that I have On the Road and The Road literally back to back down here? And speaking of these two particular books, I really want to read both of these, so I feel like I need to move some things off of the back of the cart. I'm definitely not wanting to store books on the back because I don't think they get attention back there, and they're kind of out of sight, out of mind. So I'm definitely going to go ahead and move the stuff that's back here off of the cart so that I can reorganize it. The back of the cart is clear, and we are now officially back up to 200 books on the physical TBR. So far so great. I'm gonna get this spun back around, and then we will move over to the TBR shelf and start working our way through those. Alright, so moving over, this is the bottom of the TBR shelf, and the TBR on the shelf is these two, and then two more up above, so we'll start with the bottom ones and work our way up. But I do have a couple stacks of books sitting here, and you probably will recognize some of these books because they've been featured in some recent vlogs and videos. So I just want to quickly go through the stacks that are sitting here on the floor before we move over to the shelf itself to make sure that everything is accurately listed. So I'm going to start with these books down here. Alright, so we finished with the bottom shelf, and we've hit 219, so now we're up to this shelf, and I can already promise you that I think 90% of these I literally just hauled, if not 99%. I think there's maybe one here that I didn't just haul, so these are all definitely going to have to be added, and then hopefully the stuff that's behind is already on there, but we'll start here and we'll just go from there. Alright, so now we're on the back row, and I have to be honest with y'all, there are a couple here that I'm considering unhauling. I'm considering unhauling the rest of these books by Holly Jackson, which I know that these are part of A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which I did really enjoy, but it is a young adult series, so I haven't felt inspired to continue these. But on the other hand, I feel like I could probably read all of these in a single day if I was really in the mood to read, especially this fall. So I may set these aside for my fall TBR, and then if I don't get to them this fall, I'll reevaluate. But I did really enjoy Holly Jackson's new release, which was more of an adult book. And so I definitely think Holly Jackson is still for me, but I just might not be as interested in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder books. So I don't know about these yet. We'll see. These may or may not get unhauled. And then the other books that I'm definitely considering unhauling are going to be Powerless, because I haven't read that either, the novella, and Reckless. And I really need to stop being inspired by everyone talking about books to go out and buy them, because I have read all of Red Queen, and based on all the drama around these, I just don't think it's worth my time to read them. And a friend of mine recently told me that they're just not worth reading. She enjoyed the first one, and she's hated everything else that's come out since then. So I'm just not sure about these. They might get unhauled. For right now, I will include them in the physical TBR, but if I do unhaul them, I'll delete them from there later. I'm pretty sure Five Survive is not related to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure this one is a standalone. I don't know if I'm gonna unhaul this one. I definitely feel the same way, that I could probably read it pretty quickly, and I kind of feel like there's a book that I recently read. It was the one set in the Outer Banks. I'm trying to remember the name of the book. But it's about a group of friends that while they're in school, they end up getting in this horrible accident, and they're like the only people that survive. I think it's called like The Only Ones Left, maybe. This kind of has a similar premise, so I'm wondering if this will have a much better execution, because in general I like Holly Jackson's writing more, so I would be interested to see if that is better. So after that shelf, we are at 233. So I'm hoping that we might be right at 250. Fingers crossed. I'm not super confident about that. I am a little worried that it might be more than that, but that is the purpose of this video. So I'm gonna get these books put back, and then we will continue with the third shelf. So listen, this really funny thing happened. I took a little break to have dinner, and I don't know what happened, but somehow I ended up at Barnes. So counterproductive to the purpose of this video, I did pick up a couple books, and I do know why I ended up at Barnes. I've had a very busy week, and Barnes was actually having their 50% off hardcovers sale, and we needed to renew our membership, so that's why I have a new bag. But I just picked up 4 books, and I do have an explanation for why I got these, so I feel like these make sense. 2 of them were on the sale, so I'll show you those first, and then of course I'll add these to my Goodreads list. So the first one that I picked up that was on the sale was Murder at Gull's Nest, and I saw this one on their website actually before we had gone to the store, so I knew it was going to be on the sale, and I had read the synopsis and I thought this sounded super cute, and I'm definitely still in the mood for a lot of like cute mysteries and thrillers, so I thought this one would be perfect. So I picked that one up, and then the other book that I picked up that was on the half off sale was TJ Klune. This is The Bones Beneath My Skin, and this is a newer release from TJ Klune. So I really enjoyed TJ Klune's writing, and I was really excited that this was available on the sale. I actually have The House on the Cerulean Sea on my TBR for this month, so I am trying to read that very soon. But when I saw that this was on the sale, I've had my eye on it for a long time, so I figured I might as well go ahead and get it while it was half off. And then the other 2 books that I have were not on the sale, but make perfect sense to me. So I've got Accomplice to the Villain, which this is the most recent release in this trilogy. I believe this is going to be the last book in the series, and I've already read books 1 and 2, and I don't have physical copies of them, but I wanted to go ahead and pick up this one. The price on Kindle versus buying the book new were pretty negligible. There wasn't a huge price difference, and I personally would much rather just own the book. So I'm really looking forward to finishing this series. This was a new release that I've had my eye on, but that I hadn't pre-ordered. So I just wanted to go ahead and pick that up while I was in the store. I probably will get to this one in the next couple weeks, so that's definitely how I'm justifying that purchase to myself. And then the last book that I picked up was Strange Houses, and this is a translated work. It was originally written in Japanese. The author is Japanese, and this is one that I've also had on my wish list for a while. This author has another book called Strange Pictures that I've been really interested in as well, and I really feel like this one is nice to read as a physical copy because it has a lot of diagrams like the blueprint shown here, and you kind of piece together what's going on in the thriller based on some of these strange house blueprints that you'll see throughout the book. So I don't want to give anything away. I haven't read it yet, but I have heard some things about it. And since they had physical copies in the store, I wanted to go ahead and pick that up. So those are the 4 books that I got. And I am going to go ahead and log these 4 into my Goodreads with my iPad before we move on to the shelf. And then I'll give you a reminder of where we're at in terms of the number for my physical TBR before we get started here. So with those 4 books added, that brings us to 237 books total. And thankfully, we are almost done with the shelves. So we'll pick right back up here. And I'm just going to go through this front row, and then I'll go to the books behind. But again, I'm hoping most of the books behind are already on the list. So I will update you once I've done these 2 shelves. So after finishing this shelf, we are now at 249 books, and we've just got 1 more shelf to go, and then I'll do a quick sweep of the room to make sure there are no missing books that have kind of been misplaced. I do have 1 more stack of summary books that I think some of them may not have made the list yet, so I'm gonna make sure that those all end up on the list. Now, this shelf is a little bit hard for me to give you a good angle on, so we're just gonna go with this, and you'll just have to excuse the fact that I'm like half in frame, but we'll go with that. So I'm going to start with these front ones, and then again I'll move them so that I can get to the books in the back. Everything on my TBR shelf, which brings us to 250 157. So I do have a funny feeling that there's a couple more unread books in the room. So I'm going to take a quick look around and make sure those are on the list, and then we will do some final conclusions. So after a final scan of the room, I believe I've gotten as accurate of a count as I'm going to be able to get. So our final grand total for the physical TBR is 275, which is pretty bad, to be honest with you, but I am glad that I actually have an accurate count now, and I'm definitely going to be using this as motivation to start doing a Love It or Unhaul It series here on the channel. So if you have less than 275 books on your physical TBR, hopefully this helps you to feel a little bit better about that. And if you have more than me, please let me know in the comments so I can feel better about how many books I have on my TBR. But that being said, I think I'm going to hold off on updating my Goodreads more in this video. I do want to go back and update my Goodreads with ratings for everything I have read so far this year, just because some of them have not been rated yet. And in addition to that, I'm also a little behind on my reading journal, so I may use some reading journal update videos as an opportunity to also go back and update those ratings. But just let me know if that's something that you would also be interested to see, just because I didn't do very many wrap-ups between January and July on the channel, so I would love to share some of those reads with you all as well. But that is going to be it for today's video, so definitely stay tuned for those Love It or Unhaul It vlogs, and definitely check back in because I'm hoping that we can start to really decrease this number here in the last few months of the year. That way we can start off with a smaller TBR for next year and hopefully set a buying ban and some new goals for how much I'm going to read from my physical TBR in the future. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!